Welcome to the Firebelly Social Show. We're focused on talking to food and beverage brands that are on a mission to make the world better.
Hey, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the Firebelly Social Show, where we speak to leading entrepreneurs and CEOs of mission-driven beverage and food brands. I'm so excited. You might even say I'm slightly nervous because I'm going to interview a super cool guy today. I am your host, Duncan Alney. This episode is brought to you by Firebelly. At Firebelly, we make brands more likable and profitable through social media marketing. That's all we do. 100% social media marketing. We're consistently voted one of the top 10 social media agencies in the world by Clutch. And Firebelly's helped clients like Netflix, Qdoba, Fiji Water, and so many others transform themselves on social media. So if you want to make your brand more likable and profitable, let's talk. But look, I even woke up early today because I'm interviewing Brandon Hall. He is one of the co-founders and chief brand officer of ONEHOPE Wine. So Brandon, welcome, my man, welcome.
Thank you, Duncan. Excited to be here. Looking forward to chatting.
And look, you have so many other things to do right now, and you came. So thank you. I mean, you are getting married this weekend. You're leaving to go abroad for a month, and you're making time for us. So thank you so much.
No worries at all.
And so, Brandon, tell us, ONEHOPE has got such a huge name and reputation and impact. Let's hear it from you. Tell us in your words, the story behind ONEHOPE.
Yeah, so it's been a long time coming. We actually just celebrated our 14th birthday yesterday. So we started this literally out of the back of our cars in Southern California 14 years ago. All of us, we have 8 co-founders, 6 of who are still with the company. And we all met working at Gallo Wine Company right out of college. We were basically reps in grocery stores, stocking the shelves for Gallo. And for those of you that don't know Gallo is like Coca-Cola of the wine industry. They own a large majority of the big brands that you probably know about. If you go in a grocery store, half of the shelf is owned by Gallo for the most part. So they're a big player. And that was our job, just kind of repping their brands. And one thing that we saw in the grocery stores during that time, getting this is 15, 16 years ago, was the emergence of cause marketing, where their brands would support some cause just for a month. So a big one that everyone knows about is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We are in the stores, you'd see every other brand in the store throw a pink ribbon or pink label on their bottle or on their soup or on their toilet paper or whatever it may be. And it was all they talked about for the month of October. And then we walked in the store on November 1st, and it was all that pink product was in the back of the store, either being shipped off or being thrown away. And so we just had this idea of like, this should something that should be done year round, and it's something that people want to support. People love supporting it from what we saw of being in stores every day. So that was our big crazy idea when we're in our early 20s. We're like, let's create a brand that does this year round, gives back year round, and makes giving part of the fabric of the brand rather than just a monthly marketing campaign. In all honesty, yes, to raise good awareness, but also to raise revenues is what a lot of the brands did it. They were very unauthentic, in our opinion, the way that they did this. And so that was our big crazy idea, just to start a brand that gave back. We're in the wine industry. We knew the wine industry, or thought we did the time. And so we all just were out together at happy hour one day, and we're like, Jake, who's our CEO, it was his original idea. He's like, I'm doing this. I'm like, I'm doing it. And everyone else like, okay, let's do it. And so we quit our jobs. We bought about $10,000 worth of wine off of a winery in Napa, put our labels on it, which was just like a pixelated ribbon at the time. And our initial idea and messaging, we were going to give half our profits back to local nonprofits, and each varietal was going to support a different cause. So those first 3 was breast cancer, or a Chardonnay that was going to support breast cancer, a Cabernet that was going to support autism, and a Merlot that was going to support AIDS awareness. And that's how it got started. We loaded up a U-Haul, drove it down from Napa, put it in a storage unit in Costa Mesa, California, and just started going to restaurants throughout Orange County, LA, and telling that basic story. And that's what got the ball rolling.
So, I mean, this is an amazing story. I love it. I love the intention and the ambition. And so as opposed to sort of like the cause marketing thing, right, which is, you're right, it's opportunistic, right? And instead, you're saying that your company, over the course of these 14 years, what you're doing instead is we're doing it year round. It's baked. Let's use a better word. It's in the genetics of the company.
100%.
like community mindedness, giving, generosity, good intentions are baked in. And I know that one of the things that's on your website, it's big in black and white. Our purpose is to nourish the future.
Right.
And this came from you and Jake and your at the time 6 other partners to like impact the world.
Right. Absolutely. And that's there's two parts to this. One, nourishing the future is something we just went through a whole rebranding and remessaging over the past 2 years, and we rolled that out. And as we were coming up with this purpose of nourishing the future, we're like, this explains exactly what we do, and it also explains exactly what we've been doing since day one. Like that was our ultimate goal, was we wanted to make the life of people around us and those that didn't have opportunity better by whatever it may be, is just whatever we can do to help out. And so that was really the pure intention of our brand. And that's definitely where it is today and where we're going. I can get a little bit more into that later of kind of, where we are and where we're going. But yeah, I think going back to I think the question you're trying to get at is there's brands that do this. So now cause branding is a big thing. Back when we started, cause branding wasn't a thing. We started the same year that Blake started Tom's Shoes. There's Newman's Own was the only other brand that was giving back year round, but nobody really knows what Newman's Own does unless they really dig into it. And so over the years, this has obviously become very popular. And the one thing that I always say to any entrepreneurs that are coming up or any business leaders that are thinking about having some sort of social impact baked into their brand is it has to be authentic. It has to be something that you do from the beginning. I've met with so many people who are like, we're going to do this, but we're going to make it first and then we're going to get back. I'm like, no, that goes completely against what we have to do here. Like we started our business on credit cards and we were donating to local nonprofits that first month with money we didn't have because it was that baked into our business. And throughout the time, I mean, any business like this, it takes a while to become profitable. And that was a part of a line item on our budget is making these donations. And any successful brand in this space, that needs to be a part of it. I always say authenticity is one of our core values, and it needs to be any cause brand. Authenticity needs to be a core value or a big part of what you do, because you can't just talk the talk and then give later once you make it. It's got to be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon, you have to sleep well, knowing that you've changed animals' lives, you've changed the lives of people, you've impacted forests. I mean, I'm looking at the impact. It's community, animals, and shout out to Lauren Johnson on our team because she was thrilled about you helping pets find and dogs find forever homes, endangered species, children, education, environment, global health, veterans, women. I mean, this is huge.
Yeah.
What's one of your favorite, organizations or causes to be involved with?
Yeah. One of my all-time favorites is Pencils of Promise. We've recently built 5 schools with them so far, 2 that are done and 2 that are going up. And it's an amazing organization. And one thing that I can get into a little bit is just, I love this idea of sustainability with philanthropy. So what they're doing is building sustainable projects in communities around the world that are going to return the favor to that community for generations to come. It's not like it's a difference of like going to a community and handing out computers and books that are going to disappear or break in a year versus building an actual school and facility that is going to service that community for years, going to change lives, going to educate that community, and ultimately break the cycle of poverty. So they were one of the first that I watched do this. I watched them. We were friends with them in New York and watched them come up, and it's really honestly helped us change our entire way that we give and the organizations that we support based on what I watched them do.
And Brandon, social, not just social media, but the concept of being social is part of everything, right? It's part of how your product is sold. It's part of how you reach and connect with people, and it's I heard you say on another interview that you were wanting to get involved with products that we used every day. You know,
Right.
I mean, social glue is part of who you guys are. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So wine has been used to bring people together for thousands and thousands of years. If you go back and watch Game of Thrones or Lost Kingdom, any of these, like literally armies and kings would have a bottle of wine with each other before they go to war because other or communities would gather in the beer or wine hall and have that's where like community happened. And so as we grew, we always knew that from the beginning, is we knew our wines would bring people together and good stories and bring people together. So that's with philanthropy and wine, like bringing people together. Also, any nonprofit event you go to, or nonprofit for the most part has a bottle of wine there. You know, people are walking around holding a bottle of wine and connecting with each other while also doing good and giving back. So it's always, community has always been a big part of what we do. And as we've changed and developed the brand over the years, I won't go into too much detail because this gets off of marketing and branding, but we started selling our wine to restaurants and wine shops and grocery stores. We now 90% of our business is done through e-commerce, and a big portion of that is done through social selling or direct sales, which basically we have independent sales reps that are empowered to go out and tell our story for us and tell their story and how it connects to our brand. And many of them, either host virtual or in-person wine tasting events to raise money for local nonprofits. And they get all their friends around a couple bottles of ONEHOPE wine, tell the story of ONEHOPE, tell the story of the local nonprofit they're supporting, and then they all sit there and have a good time, drink the wine, connect, and at the end of the day, make an impact and just have a sense of community. And so that's just been it's we knew that from the beginning. It's kind of interesting how our brand's taken this whole turn from selling at grocery stores to being completely e-commerce and then have this direct selling issue. But technology has made it easier to do that. And going really quickly into through social media and through technology, we can have that connection with our customer directly. Whereas back before, and the reason we didn't start there is because you legally couldn't sell wine online up until probably 10 years ago. And it was only 7 states at the time. Now it's like 48 that allow it, 45, I'm sorry. But it was really hard. We have this great story that we came up with, and then we'd have to tell a distributor the story, and then they'd have to go tell the restaurant owner the story, and then the owner would have to tell their wait staff the story, and then we were dependent on that wait staff to tell this really cool story that we came up with and this impact that we were making. So the emergence of technology, the emergence of social media has made it so much easier for us to create a community around our brand and allow us to tell our authentic story to that community and allow them to tell it to their community.
But what and that is, I think, a very real understanding of how people work and how community and connection happens and conversations. And yet we were talking earlier, this is just a reality check, not trying to diss anybody, that there's a lot of people in the wine industry that don't get that at all, right? They're trying to do everything without stories. They're doing it with kind of like, lifeless descriptions of grapes.
Yeah.
And weather conditions. It's like, when the reality is, it's like the average person is much likely to remember a story as, and connect it to something else. With your social, just on a tactical level, like what are some things that I think, I should say, what are some things that you think really make a difference in the way you tell stories?
Going back to authenticity, just humanity. I think bringing in a lot of on our social, you'll see just real life people and real life, like we use people from our community. It's not a bunch of photo shoots and models. It's authentic and it's who we are. And then we also tell real stories of the impact that we're making. So I think, there are some brands that, very idealistic images work. The fashion industry is a perfect example of that. I think with wine, it just depends what industry, but I think definitely in social impact, social branding, and in something like wine, like you need to be authentic to who you are and authentic to what you're actually doing in the world to make an impact, and show that on a day-to-day basis.
And I guess is part of that just being unapologetic.
Yeah.
It's like, this is who we are. This is what we're doing. And we really don't give a shit about what you think of it, Mr. Competitor, or, Mrs. Competitor. We're going to be who we are.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, going back to we don't give a shit, is we've been told from early on, from the big guys in this industry and the big distributors, that we're just a bunch of kids that have no idea what they're doing and they'll phase out. And here we are 14 years later, one of the biggest direct consumer brands, leading the digital space when all these other brands are now. I mean, we were Duncan and I were talking earlier, most of the wine industry, the big players in the wine industry, are still fighting over shelf space in grocery stores, not telling a story, not making an impact, they're worried about the price on the shelf, where they sit on the shelf, and what kind of discount or what kind of like side stack that they can get in front of the meat aisle. That's what these big brands are focused on. They're not focused on making people's lives better around the globe or connecting directly with customers. They come up with a bunch of random brands every year. They throw new brands and new labels with, whatever stories out on the shelf and see what sticks. And then they pump a bunch of money behind those. So it's a very interesting industry. I understand why they do that, but our branch going back to the beginning, we've been unapologetic about it. We're going to be very different than you guys. We're going to go down this different road, and we're not going to listen to naysayers that say we're going to fail for 14 years. And then, here we are, we just opened up one of the nicest state-of-the-art wineries in the heart of Napa, right next door to all of them. And now their eyes are open.
I mean, and not to mention the pandemic has probably effed up that whole thinking even more, because I think what people have realized, I mean, of course we have Zoom fatigue, so we'll leave that story out completely as we do this over Zoom. But I think that people are like, hey, if I like something and I can connect with it on a daily basis, like you were saying, you are now seeing all these ads for ties, right? If I like something, give me more of it, right? Make it easy for me and give it to me in a way that is the best way possible, so whether it's, quotes or like people laughing, I think that, you at the end of the day, life is too short to be serious all the time.
Right. No, absolutely. And I think going into that point is like, you have one thing that I've learned in branding over the years, and I just nail in with our team or people I mentor, is like, you have to know, you have to know who your customer is and just focus on making them happy and giving them what they want. There's going to be so many people. I mean, I even have family members that just still don't buy our wine because they just don't connect to it. But I have friends that really connect with what we do in the world and what our messaging is and what our mission is. And they, buy a case a month, and they talk about it and they share it with all their friends. And so you're never, in branding and marketing and social media, like you're never going to get everyone to follow you. You're never going to make everybody happy. But if you stick to your message and what you stand for as a brand, the right people are going to follow you. And then you have evangelists, and they're the ones that can spread the word. They're the ones that buy a case of wine and give 6 bottles away, and we're like, I love this brand, you guys got to try it, right? And that's it. No matter what whether you're selling socks or bikes or cars, like that's what you want. And the only way you get that is being super authentic and have very clear messaging for who you are and what you stand for.
It's interesting that you have lived that in so many different ways. And one that I have to talk about is even going to the Shorties, which, man, what an accomplishment. That's the Academy Awards for social media. And you guys went, and it was such a great effort. And by the way, I got to say, Tiny Little Firebelly went to the Shorties with Chad Richards' work for Noble Romance Pizza, and we lost to Chipotle, right? Okay. What are you going to do? But even the campaign that you guys were featured in or went to the Shorties with, it was real working with influencers on an in-kind basis, right? It's like you guys were doing in-kind work, which is where that whole world is trending against. It's like, hey, I've got production costs and look at how big my following is. And but you guys did it with in-kind work with these influencers, and you tied in the cause to all the impact into it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's really kind of where our whole direct sales model came from, is that we've had so many, from celebrities to influencers, just everyday people are passionate. Have reached out for years and like, how do we become a part of this? Like, how can I, we'd have 10 people reach out a day of like, can I create a wine label that goes back to my cause, or this, these just crazy stories that we found, or like, how do we do this? Like, we obviously can't create a new wine label every week and give back to another cause. But how do we find a way to let people feel involved with our brand and make an impact? And that's kind of where it started with that campaign. Is like, we gave influencers like Hazer Tequila Wine to host events, and they use that to create content, and we had an affiliate link where they could sell it and raise money for some local nonprofit that they're passionate about. And that's kind of, like I said, it was really successful then. We still do that today with influencers, and that was the basis of this whole, direct sales model that we have now. Is now we have a way for anyone that wants to be a part of ONEHOPE, whether full time or just host an event. They can be a part of it, and they can raise money for a cause that's in their local neighborhood or something they're passionate about, super easily throughout the tech platform that we've created and the product we created behind it.
Power to the people, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. And so with your social, I mean, I noticed that about it actually before you said that it's very real. It's not overproduced. You can tell they're real people. They're not models. So is the mix kind of like a combination of organic, paid influencers, and then you guys do your own photography and video as well?
Yeah, we do both. Like I've said, we have this huge community that is hosting events all over the country on a weekly basis. I mean, they weren't for a year, but we also get them together. So we try as much as possible to feature them. And some of them will host events and throw us these amazing photos, and we'll use those. Some of it is our content that we've produced in-house. And then a lot of it is, like, as you'll see, we try to do like one, a third like product, a third social, philanthropy, highlighting what we're doing. And then we try to be fun. We always say we take what we do seriously. We don't take ourselves too seriously. And so I think that's important with social branding, and is not to, it shouldn't be, what's that? The ASPCA commercials where you literally want to cry every time these commercials come on. Like, we're doing amazing work, but we also want it to be fun. And we want people that enjoy our brand and not be too serious, but also at the same time, we're making, really serious impact in the world.
I mean, I can remember years and years ago being in a hotel room and the TV was on, and that Sarah McLachlan song comes on. I was like, oh, man, I think I'm going to kill myself. It's can only take so much of that. So I've got a cheeky question for you. I've heard tell that despite being extremely tight with who was being led into a party at the Playboy Mansion early on in you guys' journey, like, you were there, wine in hand at this totally closed off party, and your dad was really proud.
Well, I told Duncan he did a lot of digging to find this story. Early on, for the first couple of years of this business, we had no money. We're literally, sleeping on couches and traveling the country and sleeping on friends' couches and whatnot. But one thing and I think the way that we really grew this brand is everyone loves a free case of wine. And so we would offer wine to all kinds of different nonprofits, charity events, and whatnot in exchange for, tickets to the event for us to come. And we went to there was an event at the Playboy Mansion, and we're like, well, we're just going to show up to the front gate with a couple cases of wine. We're like, party, and the guy's like, come on in. And then we went right to the event corner. We're like, here's the wine. They're like, great, come on in. So and just like let us in. We had a great time and stocked the bar with wine and had a great time. So it was, I think I sent a picture to my dad, and he's like, I don't know if I've ever been so proud of you. I was like 24 at the time. You just assumed
you were delivering wine. You know, these guys that bring, you can't not have wine at the party. So, um, so thank you everyone for listening today. Before we get to the last question, I want to say thank you to Brandon for coming today. And thank you to Firebelly for sponsoring this. At Firebelly, we make brands more likable and profitable through social media marketing. If you want to make your brand expand its reach, get better ROI, let's talk firebellymarketing.com. And so back to you, Brandon, with the last question. You know, in this sort of like, I don't know if we're post-pandemic, but whatever we are right now, right? What's your advice, you know, to mission-driven brands? Like, you know, what's one thing, you know, there's so much advice I'm sure you could give, but what's one thing you suggest that they think about? With their marketing, I should say that.
With their marketing, I think there's a lot going on in the world right now. So if you have a brand that this is advice I always give. You have a brand, if you want to give back, you want to make an impact, you have some sort of brand. There's so many things out there that need help. The pandemic has made that very clear. You turn on the news every day. It's crazy the amount of stuff going on in our world right now where anyone can make an impact and impact other lives. You want to make sure it makes sense. You don't want to start a bike company that's, you know, building wells in Africa. Like, where is the connection there? So maybe if you start a bike company, you supply bike racks to underprivileged communities in your, wherever that may be. Like, it has to make sense. It has to be authentic from the beginning. It can't just be like, oh, I'm going to do this because it's going to help our sales. No, it has to be authentic. It needs to be baked into the clear messaging. It needs to be simple. It needs to make sense. It needs to be simple, clear messaging. I will say the biggest learning journey that we've made over the time is we started with a bunch of wines that gave back to a bunch of different causes, and it made for a very complicated story. You know, I talked about the 3 earlier. We then, over the span of time, grew to 50 varietals that all had a different cause that we gave back to, and made a very long, complicated story. So one thing we've done in this past year is really change the way that we give. Now all of our varietals go to the ONEHOPE Foundation, and the foundation funds human needs projects that fund water, health, education, and hunger. So we build schools through Pencils of Promise. We build wells through Charity Waters and others. We build sustainable gardens, and we do certain sustainable healthcare initiatives. So we're very clear on what we do now. It aligns with our purpose of nourishing the future, because all those things, once you do that, you nourish the future of those communities and so forth. So I think, like, moving forward past this pandemic, make sure whatever good you're doing aligns with whatever product you're selling. Make it very simple and clear what you're doing, and make sure it's something that is easily digestible. We already had an attention problem, but during the pandemic, everyone sat on their phone for an entire year. I mean, I feel it personally, but everyone has a worse attention problem now. So you have to get your point across very quickly to the consumer, what you do, why they should buy in or lean into what you do, and the impact that you're making. You have to get that across to them in 5 seconds, or else they're going to move on to the next. They're going to keep scrolling. So I think that was a lot, but I think that sums it up. It's just, it has to make sense. It needs to be super clear, and you need to deliver the message very quickly.
I feel like keeping it real is just part of your approach. So, so Brandon, how can our listeners and viewers get involved with ONEHOPE?
So if you go to our site, I mean, for the easiest one is sign up for our wine club and just experience our wine. We have an amazing, one of the top female winemakers in the industry. She's all over our social media. Her name is Mari Coyle. She does an unbelievable job. So buy a bottle of wine, enjoy it, try it out. If you want to host an event to raise money for a local nonprofit in your area, go on our website and go to host. You can see how you can do that. We have local, what we call cause entrepreneurs that could come help you put that on. If you want to become a cause entrepreneur, what we call them, there's tons of information on our website about how to become a cause entrepreneur. And that essentially means that you're able to kind of sell our wines on our behalf and raise money for local nonprofits of your choice. And that's all on the website. So just dig in there. But I would suggest start with buying a bottle of wine, trying it out, and going from there.
ONEHOPEWine.com. I'm so happy that we had Brandon Hall today on here, co-founder and chief brand officer. Brandon, before we end, just thank you so much, man, to you and your partners for, actually making the world a better place. Thank you. One small thank you from the bottom of my heart. And with that, we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Firebelly Social Show. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.